Hello, friends. This is Ellie Granger of 360news.com, welcoming you to another segment of Joan Thomas's fast-growing podcast, A Closer Look. This week, Joan welcomes Dr. Stephen Mulder, conductor, educator, church musician, and founder of Griffin Choral Arts. Through decades of leadership and service, Dr. Mulder has influenced generations of singers and helped enrich the cultural life of communities across our region. Joan explores the experiences, lessons, and passions that have shaped his remarkable journey and the music, faith, and dedication that continue to guide his work. Here's Joan.
Few things have the power to connect people quite like music. A single song can stir memories, strengthen faith, build community, and speak to the human heart in ways words alone often cannot. My guest today has dedicated his life to that calling. Dr. Stephen Mulder is a conductor, educator, church musician, and founder of Griffin Choral Arts. Through decades of leadership and service, he has influenced generations of singers and helped enrich the cultural life of communities across our region. So today, we'll explore the experiences, lessons, and passions that have shaped his remarkable journey. One of my favorite people, Dr. Mulder. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. This is really wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I would love to know first what first drew you to music.
Well, I grew up in a musical family. Some of my earliest memories were of sitting at the piano next to my mother as she played the piano. And she would play piano music. She would play songs that we would sing along to. So that was the earliest memories. And then I had also a really good children's choir experience. I remember the excitement of being old enough finally to be in the children's choir, and even the elementary lessons about how to sit the first day and how to breathe. So I had a lot of opportunities early on to do singing in church services. And I think that was kind of foundational for me. That's how it all started.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you realize music was not simply something you loved, but something you were called to do?
I was at a small Christian school, and so everyone did band, everyone did choir, and it was just kind of expected that you would choose an instrument, you would sing in the choir. And even in high school, I just participated in band and choir. And by the time I was a senior, I was showing some leadership and was elected president of the band, president of the choir. I was the drum major of the band. And when I went off to college, I had a work-study job in the music department, working for Dale Grotenhuis, the choral director at Dordt College, where I did my undergrad work. And he was also my advisor. So we sat down, and I had lots of interest. I was good at math. I enjoyed computers and, enjoyed English and writing. But we decided that maybe I would start out as a music major and just kind of see how it went. And from there, it just kind of turned into what I did. So it wasn't like a woke up one day and decided. It was kind of a gradual thing and a gradual realization that this is just who I'm going to be, and that's how it went for me.
Did you have a particular mentor or great influence in your life when you were young for music?
Well, again, my mom was kind of my first influence. She was always my biggest fan.
Mm-hmm.
Always at everything I did, all the concerts, all the solos, all the things in the community. I had a very good piano teacher. Joan Jensen was her name. I didn't realize how good of a piano teacher she was until I got to college and started to take music theory. I don't remember her teaching me theory, but somehow I just knew a lot of things that had been snuck in along the way. I mentioned my children's choir at the church. Jo Hine was my choir director there, and she was also a huge influence on my musicality, my confidence. She was always finding opportunities for me to try something. Well, maybe try a glockenspiel on this. Maybe do a drum on this, and helped me to grow that way. In high school, my band director, Jeff Hall, and my choir director, Marlene Koster, were very good about developing my my skills and giving me opportunities there. Small ensembles, leadership kinds of things. I had a brass quintet that I organized and played with in high school and in college. So all those good experiences. And then I mentioned Dale Grotenhuis. He was my advisor. He was my work study boss. He was my role model. Really, I think in my early years of teaching, I emulated a lot the gestures. Not the rehearsal style. He was a little bit of an authoritarian and was a jerk sometimes. And I decided I wasn't going to be that. So non-example kind of there a little bit. But as far as the passion and the conducting technique, he was a very physical kind of conductor. And so I found myself imitating that quite a bit.
Well, you're so talented in so many areas, but what attracted you specifically to choral conducting?
I think it was the emotional and the aesthetic experiences I had singing choral music. I remember the day our high school choir made it from the beginning of Randall Thompson's Hallelujah all the way to the end, and the rush of being able to sustain an a cappella piece that long. In college, I remember singing Brahms' Requiem, and I remember singing John Rutter's Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd," and the emotion of those. So, and I think it was seeing that, experiencing that, and then wanting to put my own stamp on it. Let me drive once. Let me take the choir and see if I can go just a little bit faster there or hold that note a little bit longer. I felt like I wanted to experiment a little bit, and that curiosity kind of drove me into choral conducting, I think.
Well, I watch so many choral conductors, and they're all so very different. But I think watching you is so easy to sing. I know exactly what you want us to do. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I want to go a little bit to the power of music. Why do you think human beings are wired for music? Or are they?
Yeah, I think that it's part of our humanness. It's a big part of our humanness. For me, music is closely connected to the meaning of life, is something as big as that. The questions like what happens after we die, what's our purpose? What are we doing here? And as I considered those things as a young man, as a young musician, it was music that gave me the closest answers for those things. I felt like if there is something beyond when I'm singing, I feel like that I'm experiencing that. I can't explain the feelings that I'm having. There must be a creator. There must be something bigger than just it's all it is air moving, vibrations in our eardrums. That it has such power is inexplicable, except that someone provided that for us. So I think that's why.
When I was a little girl and even older, I can remember music moving me to tears, and I would always wonder how in the world it had that power. What do you think music touches within us that other forms of communication don't or can't?
Yeah. I think there's a mystery. There's magic in the vibrations. Somehow there's longing and expectation. When we go to school, we study music theory, and we we discuss form and analysis and things like that. And that can explain some of it. You can say, well, I like this kind of a chord or that progression, or I like when this theme returns. It makes me feel like it has a meaning or something, but it can't explain everything. And at least I think some of it has to do with the human relationship between the composer and the performers, or the performer and the people who are listening. There's something about that human connection that I think also is part of the magic of how it affects us so directly and so emotionally.
Yes, I've always pondered this question, and I've never asked anybody, but I'll ask you. And you kind of answered it a minute ago. Do you believe music is discovered or created, or both?
Yeah, the elements exist, right? The parts exist. The possibilities exist. Even in the 12 tones of the scale, there's so many possibilities, and I think the potential is always there for rearranging or finding new combinations. And the composer, the performers, and the listeners, all that together kind of determines what the impact is. I do believe that God created music, and he created humans to be musical and to delight in the sandbox of sounds that surround us, all the tools that we have to create.
I agree with you. I think music has beauty, but do you think beauty has a purpose, or is it just something we've just discovered along the way?
The more I listen to music, the as I mature and go in deeper, as I study. Right now, I'm in a Beethoven mode. I'm preparing to conduct Beethoven's Ninth in 2027, and so I've been playing a lot of Beethoven piano pieces and listening to a lot of Beethoven. And the more I listen to it, the more I feel that orchestral music, even without words, is underrated as a conveyor of truth and of meaning, of what it means to be a living, breathing human being. So I think that there is truth in the music that's beyond what we see on the surface. It's like the question of what does Bach mean? What does that music mean? Well, it means Bach. I was at the Atlanta Symphony for Mahler's second, the Resurrection Symphony, and I can't express the way the music made me feel, and it's exactly that, the inability of words to describe or explain what the music is doing. That is the evidence that it's touching something beyond what we can even put into words.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move a little bit into Griffin Choral Arts. Why do choirs matter? Of course, I think they do. Why do they matter to you and to us?
I think it's the miracle of the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. You look at all the individual voices, and certainly you have strong voices. You have experienced, talented kinds of voices, but necessarily there's all different levels of skill and ability and experience. And there's something, I don't know if it's a reaction, a chemical reaction or a physical reaction of something that just allows a less experienced voice, when put in the midst of a choir, that all of a sudden the contribution somehow it's like the matching grant, right? It's like the donation that doubles itself somehow. So there's that matters that way. I think it encourages us to cooperate, to collaborate with each other. I feel like there's, we do things like compromise, we show empathy, we seek commonality, we try to unify things. And I think these are all soft skills for what it means to be a human being. And I think that's demonstrated and developed as you sing in choirs.
Mm-hmm. I've seen you take those less experienced voices and combine them, and all of a sudden we have something wonderful, a creation. So I think you're right. I know you're right. When you founded Griffin Choral Arts, what need were you hoping to fill, or is it just a vision that you had?
For me personally, I had just moved out of education, higher education. I was teaching at Gordon College. I had taken a church job, and I was adjusting to, I always knew what good music was when I was teaching in college. I get into a church environment, and all of a sudden there's different rules for when you're choosing music, there's different criteria. Mm-hmm. And I felt a little bit like I was missing out on some of the legit higher level kinds of things. So for me personally, it was a chance to pull in some masterworks and to keep that more intense side of being a choral musician alive while still doing my church job day to day. As far as the need for a larger thing, I think it was a natural outgrowth of various collaborations that we had done. We had done some combined Christmas things, some combined Easter things. We did Messiah sings at the college and at the church. And we would constantly say, oh man, this is great. We should do this more often. We've got all these singers that are able to get together and make. Our individual choirs are small, but when we come together, we can do really amazing things. So the larger picture was just all of this natural outgrowth of wanting to collaborate and get a bigger choir together.
Well, it's been very successful, Griffin Choral Arts. Is there anything that has surprised you about its growth and success? Did you expect it? be like this?
I think that I'm doing a lot of looking back now as we anticipate our 20th anniversary season. And I think the sustainability is one thing I didn't, you kind of, when you start, you're like, oh, maybe we can do this for a year. Maybe people will come back and do it a second year. We really didn't know if it was going to turn out to be a permanent kind of thing, or if it was going to be a flash in the pan and then go away. And you don't know if the singers are going to wear out, or if the audience is going to keep showing up for things. So sustainability has been a surprise. And even this time of year when I'm programming and I'm going back to the well to look for ideas, and you think, man, I've done 70, I think it was 76 programs, right? We're heading towards 77, 78, 79, 80 for our 20 years. So that's a lot of concerts. It's a lot of themes. It's a lot of repertoire. And we don't do a lot of repetition. It's not like we're doing Handel's Messiah every other year or whatever. It's a lot of it's fresh programming. And just that I can keep going back to the well and finding fresh ideas and new repertoire to keep everyone engaged, and that the singers continue to sing and the audience continues to come out for it. I think that's a little bit surprising.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've noticed how well your concerts are attended. What do you think draws people?
Well, I think part of it is we intentionally try to keep the ticket prices low. $15 or $20 for anything these days is inexpensive. So we try to do that, and it's a great deal for people that otherwise would go to Atlanta for just going to the symphony or going to the opera, and parking and traffic and all those things that are such a pain. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one thing. I think realistically, if we look at our audience, a lot of people are there because of someone in the choir. There's all these circles of influence. Yes. He sings in my church choir, or that's my music professor from college, or this is my piano teacher who's doing this. So there's a lot of friends and family in our audience. And that's one of the beautiful things about community chorus, is just that you've got so many different web of people that can be invited and will come out to see someone that they know.
What are you most proud of when you look at Griffin Choral Arts today?
I think one thing I'm very proud of is the way that we were able to handle the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of severe limitations, being able to keep our mission going. It was exhilarating to find ways to bring in smaller groups and patchwork things together and do virtual concerts and things like that, to perform for the hospital folks outdoors while they were watching on the balcony, and then gradually taking the liberty that we had to get back to things. It was just I'm very proud of that year. It was a remarkable, not just my efforts, but the whole choir wanting to sing so badly that they would put up with having a mask over their face, or put up with a 20-minute rehearsal when that's all you were allowed to do. It was evidence of the dedication that our group has. Mm-hmm.
In a strong community, what role does music and other arts play in a strong community?
I feel like our communities are so often segregated and siloed away. I think it breaks barriers. Just the different denominations in our choir, different professions represented in our choir. It allows us to have a sense of pride for the community. I think we're proud of that we're doing this in Griffin. This is amazing that we're in the region, no matter where we're performing. I like that it has a multi-generational kind of feel. You've got young people like me. You've got all ages represented. You've got kids that are recently out of high school, college age, young professionals, all the way up to retirees and the more advanced years, and all of them can succeed. All of them can contribute. I think that builds a community. I think we're kind of we all understand the I'm a bulldog, or I'm a yellow jacket, or I'm whatever I am, Pike County or Griffin or Spalding, whatever it is. And we tend to think of sports as kind of our identity a lot of it. We won that game, or we did this. And this is just a different version of that that's a little more organic and a little more embracing of a wider swath of folks.
When you audition singers, are you listening for anything beyond talent, or what are you looking for?
Well, auditions are auditions, and they're also interviews. We spend a little bit of time just getting to know each other. And there certainly is a baseline of ability. We can't have just anyone walk in. We learn things fast. So they have to have the ability to either read music or to hear it and get it into their brains quickly. Or they'll become frustrated, and frustrated singers just don't last. So I think a lot about, will this voice allow everyone else to succeed and keep going on their way? Will it not do any damage? That kind of thing. I hate to, it sounds like a low bar kind of thing, but it's really not that. It's really the voices I've had to ask not to be in the choir. More than once, it's been people that have been solo voices that I just don't think are able to come back into and I have to have that conversation. Are you really wanting to be in a choir, or would you be better as a soloist to come in sometime or something like that? And so yeah, it's and then there's some people that come in, and I understand right away that they need the choir. They need an outlet. They need the community, and so quite often I'll if they're not quite as good a reader as they maybe need to be, if they're willing to do the work and show up and do their thing, and they're not going to hurt anyone else doing their job, and they need the choir. People that are coming off of careers that are retiring, people that have lost a partner or a loved one, they're vulnerable, they're looking for something has them make that phone call or send that email and ask for an audition. And I try to take that into consideration as well.
So that's how you transform a collection of voices into a choir then?
Yeah. I think it's partly the choice of who you let in the door and give that honor to. And then it's also a matter of, you work to unify vowels, you work to, it's really a matter of waking up the ears. If you can get people to listen and figure out how their voice fits in, and if you can get them to hear, oh, I'm singing way louder than everyone around me, I need to sing softer. Or my O vowel sounds different than the vowels around me. So a lot of working without the piano, a lot of singing unaccompanied, just to kind of wake up the ears and find that ability to be critical of, am I loud or soft? Is my section loud or is it soft? And how can I contribute in a way that balances those things out?
Do you have any performances over the years that stand out to you as truly memorable? I mean, they're all memorable, but any in particular?
They are, and it's really funny. I'm thinking about this a lot as I look back through I've got a folder on my bookshelf for every concert that we've done. And every one of them is an adventure. Every one of them is a story. Every one of them is remarkable. And we perform usually on a Tuesday or a Thursday. I put the folder on the shelf, and the next Monday we pull out the next thing and start. A year ago we did The Armed Man, and you hardly think about it anymore. This year we did a outdoor concert with bluegrass and Monroe Crossing, and that's done. So now we're thinking about the next thing. You have a short memory. And when you go back and start to open those folders again and talk about this, like, oh, remember that? Oh, yeah, that was amazing what we did. But in general, I think what makes an outstanding performance has to do with proper programming. If you're choosing material that is balanced, has some variety, and I think the exceptional programs usually have something unexpected. Something that maybe it's a guest soloist who does something, a pianist that does Rhapsody in Blue, or a Vegas String Quartet doing the Barber Adagio or something like that. Oh, it was a choir concert. I didn't expect that and it just transcends because of what's there. We had a chamber choir concert one summer, and much of the music was a cappella and rather serious. And then we did the last piece was an arrangement of Fields of Gold. And it was unlike anything else that came before it. It was perfect for the vibe of the concert, and yet it was so fresh that it just kind of made that a standout kind of performance. So a lot of it has to do with programming and the unexpected.
Well, you're also a church choir master, so I know you serve St. George Episcopal Church. Have your years in church music shaped you as a musician and as a person?
I think they have, and the transition has been interesting because I was at the Griffin First United Methodist Church for almost 20 years, and it was a wonderful environment to work in. There was lots of flexibility. I did visual things, I did dance and movement things, and I had senior pastors that were willing to work with the order of service and the liturgy and put things in different places. It was a very creative process and invigorating in that way. The Episcopal Church transition, the Episcopal Church is much more structural. And I think the hardest thing initially was that where in the Methodist church service, there were at least 3 places where the only thing happening was the choir singing. We did an introit. Nothing else was moving. Everyone's listening to the end. We did an anthem. Everyone was listening to the anthem. There was no one moving in the aisles or setting things up. It was, and then the choral response at the end. 3 times that it was just the choir. In the Episcopal Church service, order of worship, music is always accompanying an act of worship. So your offertory anthem is done while the gifts are being prepared on the altar. The communion anthem is during the taking of the communion. All the service music, the Gloria, the fraction, the different parts are always accompanying. There's always a purpose for the music, the sequence, hymn, while the gospel is brought out into the center. So that was a bit of a change for me. The repertoire was also a little bit of a change. The standard is just a little bit different for the kinds of anthems that they would like, a little more drawn from the Anglican tradition and not quite so contemporary modern. Not that it's handcuffing, and I'm introducing things that I think are good music and challenging those edges a little bit. And there's no these are kind of self-imposed guardrails. I think just I understand that there's some of these standards, and I'm trying to work through that. So, but as far as my church music shaping my life, I mentioned my church choir as a child, and really from that moment and before, I've always been involved in a church, always been involved in some kind of church music, and I think it unwittingly prepared me for the career I'm in now. The music part of church music and also the church part of church music. My mom was a church secretary for 20 years in my home church. And so the church was just a place we were always doing things, always going. Church was part of our life. And now my life is like that, being at a church every day. So yeah, I think it just kind of prepared me for that. It's not just, I think it has allowed me to deal with those larger questions again, the divine questions, the existential kinds of questions. And I like that. And it's not just about getting a superior rating with your choir or a festival or taking your choir to Carnegie Hall. You're singing to communicate with the divine and to respond to the grace that's been given to you. And that kind of purpose just it's a very rewarding, purposeful kind of career.
Well, I know in the Episcopal Church and some of the others, there's a lot that is sung instead of spoken. Some people don't like that in other denominations, and some people do. I think that's important. Do you feel the same way?
Yes, the word liturgy is the work of the people, and I think it's important that a congregation has a corporate voice in worship. I think it's vital to sing together and not just have a talented few, whether that's a praise band or the choir doing the liturgy doing the work there. I think music in worship is vibrant and it's participatory. It's something that we're supposed to be actively doing, not just watching. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, something that we just watch others do. We should aspire to do more than just listen and feel, right? We're we're here, we're watching and listening and feeling, and that's fine. But I think I think in our best worship, we're called to be participants. And when our voices join together, I think that's what's happening.
I agree. And as a choir director myself, I often look out and see people not singing. And I always wonder why they don't sing.
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't happen as much in the Episcopal Church. So,
Yeah, I think we've taught that in a way. I think there's been a long tradition of, well, that's a singer, so they sing, and you're not a singer, so you play baseball or you turn pages or whatever it is you do. And I think that's damaging in the church environment, damaging everywhere, damaging in the school environment. I mean, there's got to be a place for everyone to develop that gift in whatever measure they have it, I think, because of the things I mentioned, the soft skills that come from being in a choir, being in a music ensemble.
is there anything else you think that we need to know about church music?
Well, I wanted to just mention some times where things get a little bit, you kind of transcend. And I've experienced this in a couple of different ways. There's God moments that happen occasionally where we're sitting in the sermon, and I know the piece of music that we're going to be doing after the sermon's over, and all of a sudden the preacher will start to talk about something that's directly addressed in the anthem that's coming, and I just kind of sit there and go, "Oh my gosh! If I had known, I could have picked this, but I didn't know, and yet it's there." And then there's other moments where where something unexpected happens, and I kind of do this on purpose, where I try to not rehearse always the exact same way, where the choir is aware that at any moment I might decide to hold a note, or I might decide, even though we've been doing this section of the music loud, all of a sudden I'm going to make it soft and surprise everyone with that, because of something I'm feeling in a moment, and because of just the way my brain thinks this would be received at a moment. So those kinds of things are kind of transcendent.
How do you balance artistry with ministry?
Well, I don't think that those are necessarily contrary ideas. I think when I'm doing my thing, I feel like I'm 100% an artist at any given time, and that it's that artistry that I use to then minister. And hopefully the artistry is apparent to the people that are in front of me, and also the people that are behind me. And it's part of the ministry, is just the seriousness with which I take the craft.
Well, if we look back and look ahead, can you remember a moment when you thought, I've had several of these moments, this is exactly why I do this?
Oh, yes, I have those moments all the time. We have receptions called afterglow. After a concert, you got the adrenaline rush, and you want to celebrate that. You want to be around people and talk about it. I get afterglow feelings after rehearsals. I get that rush. Sometimes after rehearsal, sometimes in the middle of rehearsal, just something will happen, and it's unbelievably rewarding. It's a moment of a dopamine kind of rush, and you just don't want those nights to end. It's just, I think that's just why I'm so ready to just do this until I can't do it anymore. And just never grows old, the rush of performing and of making music with folks that are there because they love it too.
I almost said looking back, and we can look back, but you still have so much further to go forward.
Yeah.
But so far, what accomplishment has meant the most to you?
There's lots of programs, concerts that have been memorable. I think one that sticks out in my mind was a collaboration with the Carol Symphony when we did a Beethoven concert. Beethoven had a 250th birthday during the COVID year. And so all the concerts that were planned to celebrate that birthday were delayed. And so the Carol Symphony and Griffin Choral Arts did a program called Immortal Belated, a belated celebration of Beethoven. And it was an opportunity for me to conduct the orchestra without the voices. I was able to conduct the Egmont Overture and then the Choral Fantasy, which is a kind of a mini Beethoven 9. It has orchestra, choir, soloists, and piano. Beethoven wrote it as a closer for a festival of his music, where he kind of brought the whole cast on stage to do one last thing. So Terry Lowry, the conductor of the Carol Symphony and a concert pianist, collaborated with me. He said, "You conduct, I'll play the piano. Choir will be there, the orchestra will be there." And we prepared it and got the choir ready, and we both did the concert from memory, which was kind of cool. When you're prepared that at that level, you don't need the music in front of you. And I didn't want to miss any of the looks with the choir and with the orchestra. I didn't want to miss any of the connection with Terry on the piano. And that was the last concert my mother saw me do. It was 2022 in March. So that was maybe the one I'm the proudest of. But like we said earlier, it's like every concert's like your child. You can't say which one's more. But that one I certainly remember as being special. And I'm guessing this Beethoven 9 coming up in March of 27 is also going to be a high water mark.
You have a lot of young people, young singers in the Griffin Choral Arts Choir. What do young musicians most need to hear today?
I think for young musicians, young singers, I think live performances are so vital to motivate and to instruct. I think there's no substitute for being in a performance space and experiencing live performance. And my encouragement for anyone who's getting into music would be to take advantage of all the opportunities you have to see. If it's a steel drum band, if it's a bluegrass festival, any live performance, if it's the symphony, if it's a choir, live performance, I think is maybe the best way to keep going and developing their skills.
Do you think people value music differently today than they did when you began your career?
I think it's still highly valued, but I feel like we've discouraged participation in a way by in favor of elevating talented few to perform. We talked about this earlier. So I think investing time and energy into anything, having buy-in. So I think the more people that participate in music, just demonstrates a higher value in the community. So I'm glad that there's opportunity for our community to do this, and hopefully it radiates out, and all those family and friends that come to our concerts are given an opportunity to see the value of the art that we create.
What is it about what you do that still excites you so much about music?
I think it's the connection and the collaboration, gathering people, bringing them in. I use the sandbox metaphor quite a bit. Get all the talent together, get all the toys together, the space that you have, and just see what can happen. How far can we go? How good can we get? How much can we grow? What are we able to accomplish with the talents that we have in this room? And when you frame it like that, it's like, and I end up sprinting through rehearsals because I just want that little bit more. What's possible if we just try a little bit harder and work a little bit harder and achieve just a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So that excites me.
What gives you hope for the future of the arts?
I have opportunity to go to some conferences, whether they're regional or national conferences, and when I see a lot of times conferences are driven by school group performances, high school choirs, college choirs, middle school and elementary school choirs. And when I see young people who are rabid about singing, they've been in these wonderful programs, they've developed all these skills, they've gone on the trips, and then they perform at a conference like this in front of people that know that they hear good, and they get the reinforcement of the applause and the eyes that are welling up because of what they're doing. And I don't think you can be on stage and see a group of professionals responding to you and not be changed by that, not take that with you, even if you don't sing forever. That experience, I think, is giving me hope. If you were those choirs that I heard in Memphis this year, if you're a member in any one of those choirs, you're never going to forget that experience and carry it with you. It's like the gospel. It's good, the good news you want to share with everyone.
After so many years in music, is there anything you know now that you wish you had known when you were really young, like 25?
I think I'm still learning the importance of the non-musical things, particularly in my areas where I'm not dealing with students who are getting a grade. I'm not dealing with college students who are getting credit or who have paid to be enrolled in the class. I'm dealing with volunteer singers, the church choir, the community chorus. They don't have to be there. They're there because they want to be there. They are paying to be, they're paying dues and doing the work. 2 hours on Monday night, that's a big ask. And yet 50 to 60 folks every year just keep coming for that. So I think for me, I'm learning that the non-musical things are very important. For me, the music is self-motivating. I just go and sing, from 7 o'clock all the way to 9 o'clock without taking any time. But for some people, they need that weekly check-in. They need that hug at the door. They need someone to show interest and ask them how their week has been. Ministry too. It's at some point you have to put the lesson plan aside and hear about that father that's having trouble in the hospital and take time to care about the trip that someone's taking, that they're preparing for, or whatever it is. Just knowing that there's a balance between the music, which is supposed to be the most important thing, that sometimes isn't. That sometimes you have to give way for that. So I'm learning that and trying to grow into that as I get older.
If every former student choir member and colleague were watching right now, what would you want them to know?
I'd want them to know just how grateful I am for the opportunities that we've had to make music together, for the family that is developed when you're in a choir. Even the college students I had for just a year or two, I had an opportunity I ran into a former singer that I hadn't seen probably in 15 years that was in my choir. I saw her out and it just picked up like you do with a good friend from high school. It's like no time has passed and you fall right into that comfortable place and start to talk and share and catch up. And so I'm grateful for the musical adventures that I've had the ability to share with so many people over the years, whether it was at the college or growing up or in Griffin Choral Arts or in the church work.
When people hear the name Stephen Mulder 50 or 100 years from now, what do you hope they'll remember?
Well, I'm thinking a lot about legacy these days. It's a big year for Griffin Choral Arts. We're in our 20th anniversary season coming up. In January, I'll be turning the big 60. I know it's impossible for that to be a thing. The conducting Beethoven is a real opportunity that I'm looking forward to. I'm also in line to be the president of the Griffin Rotary Club in 2027, 2028. All of these kind of legacy kinds of things. So living into the legacy of my predecessor at the Episcopal Church, Angie Mankin, who defined really her era in the Griffin community for church music. I hope that folks will remember this time, this era of choral music and church music. I hope they'll remember it fondly for the concerts that we've done and for the memories, the familiar family kinds of memories that we were able to create in my time here in Griffin.
Wasn't she in her 90s when she finally stepped down?
She was. She was at the church from 1958 to 2018, 60 years. I just completed my second year in January, and I told our senior warden I only have 58 more years to go. I understand the expectation for a full career there, so I'll strive for that.
Well, you may do it until you're 100. Before we go, can you tell everyone how to be in touch if they want information about Griffin Choral Arts or St. Georgia Episcopal Church?
Yes, the Griffin Choral Arts website is the best place to find out all the information. I love our website. I designed it, and I maintain it. It has all the history, all 19 seasons, all the programs, all the program notes, all the stuff is there. And there's information for auditions if you want to become involved. And there's ways you can support us with finances or other ways. www.griffinchoralarts.org is the website. And church also has a website, but the best way to get involved at the church is to just show up on a Sunday morning and say hello. We have summer worship for our right two services are at 10 o'clock for the summer. And then after Labor Day, we'll go back to 11 o'clock. Check out the church website or show up on Sunday morning and say hello.
Well, Dr. Mulder, thank you for sharing your time, your story, and your lifelong passion for music. Your dedication to excellence, community, and the transformative power of choral singing has touched countless lives and continues to inspire musicians and audiences alike. And if today's conversation has inspired you to become part of that musical journey, we invite you to learn more about Griffin Choral Arts. Thank you.
Thank you.